I was strangled at a party, and now everyone is calling me a snitch for pressing charges. I attended one of my friend's birthday parties last week. Approximately 15 people were invited, and it was on her boat. For the majority of the evening, one of the guys followed me around. However, when everyone's attention was on the birthday girl and her cake, the specific guy who had been following me outsmarted me and put me in a headlock. Except for a small number of people, everyone at this party was heavily drunk. He went tighter and tighter until my entire airway was blocked after I told him I couldn't breathe. I tried to speak again, but all I could manage to mouth was "Stop, I can't breathe." "Clearly, you've never been choked before," he said as he spun me around. He then took hold of my neck and started giving it a tight squeeze. When he tried to kiss me, I started to see stars and eventually passed out. I slipped from his grasp and locked myself in the restroom on the dock shore using the key I had stolen. I also dead-bolted the door. I had apparently called one of my friends who was on the phone with me during this time, though I was in and out of consciousness. She claimed she saw the enormous red hand mark on my neck during the video call. I made it home that afternoon, but I woke up in excruciating pain. Calling one of my closest friends who had joined me at the party was the first thing I did. She cautioned me against stirring up trouble by filing charges or doing anything else, and she forbade me from visiting the hospital because doing so would prompt a police report. I finally went to the hospital because my ears were ringing and my vision was blurry even though the strangulation had left visible markings on my neck. When the police were called by the hospital and I was being questioned, they asked me if I wanted to file a complaint. I admitted that I felt a lot of pressure to drop the charges. The police then gave me their recommendation, according to which I should file a police report because this was a very violent crime. Considering that this man had a prior criminal history, the state would probably file charges if this were to happen. Additionally, I was informed that at any time, if I changed my mind, I could file a complaint. Anyway, it didn't matter because the state filed charges against him fairly quickly. The doctors warned me that I might not have survived the length of time I was strangled. Over the past few days, my wounds have gotten progressively worse and are more obvious. My voice has completely disappeared as well. My eyes' blood vessels burst during the strangulation, giving me 2 black eyes. In addition, I currently have a ruptured cornea in the back of my eye that is impairing my vision. Because the party's host was on probation for driving while intoxicated, my friends were upset to learn the truth. They were concerned because she might return to prison for allegedly serving alcohol to 20-year-olds. Even though the nurses and doctor told me I could have died, they all claimed that I was ruining his life for nothing. Other friends have expressed how much the overall situation is stressing them out and how it also affects them. I was the one who was choked, so this makes no sense to me. Everyone was present when it happened, and they gave their excuse of being extremely inebriated as to why they couldn't assist me. Since everyone was watching but nobody came to help, everyone was blaming me and telling me I was being dramatic. I've received a lot of gaslighting, shame, and blame. After 3 different versions of his story, the man now denies ever speaking to me. I have the bruises and everything to show for it, and it horrifies me that no one can step out of their self-absorbency for a minute and realize the gravity of this, but I draw the line at attempted murder. Am I wrong? Currently, I spend every day in bed by myself in excruciating pain. Edit. Many thanks to everyone for your encouragement and kind words. Throughout it all, I truly thought I was going crazy, so it is incredibly reassuring to know that I am not going crazy and that things weren't as bad as they appeared to be. I am so grateful for each and every one of you because you are a light in a time of darkness. You guys are the nicest people ever. I appreciate everything. Story 2. My Mile is trying to seduce me, and I can't take it anymore. Throwaway because, obviously. Since about 2 years ago, my wife, 24, and I, 34, have been married. Growing up, my wife and her mother, 39F, didn't get along, and she has called her a variety of names, including Maneater, One Drink Bish, Town's favorite free suit time, and many worse. We discussed having children about a year ago, and while she expressed a desire for children, she wasn't entirely supportive of the idea. My wife decided to at least try to have some sort of relationship with her mother after talking about it with her therapist. When she wasn't sharing a bed with someone, Mil was homeless and would crash on various couches. My wife agreed to let her stay with us for a few weeks after my mother-in-law persuaded her that it would make it simpler for them to work things out. Despite not liking the concept, I complied because my wife insisted on it. She also promised me that she would expel her mother from the house if she did anything inappropriate. She was not allowed to invite any of her partners into our home either, per my wife. I have spent a lot more time with my Mile than my wife has because I work from home and she works from her office. My wife and Mil are very different people. My wife has excellent manners and is very traditional. The Mil is a slob who despises dressing up. The majority of the time, Mil prefers to remain undressed for no one and prefers to remain undressed for no one and prefers to hang out in her lingerie, not just regular underwear. Even when she doesn't have any plans to leave the house or meet anyone, my wife makes a big effort to look nice. My wife asked me to ignore her mother-in-law's behavior because she doesn't want to change her mother's behavior. She just wants to mend their relationship. Soon, weeks turned into months, and my wife and my in-laws did get closer. At the same time, I had to tolerate seeing her undressed every morning while she made her coffee, a lot of inappropriate touching and contact between me and Mil, a lot of dirty talk and cringe-inducing suggestions about my relationship with my wife, and a general lack of boundaries displayed by Mil. In addition, my wife has become more proactive than before and has adopted some of my Mil's habits, such as dressing in her underwear while cleaning the house. My wife always defended her mother and begged me to put up with her for just a little longer. My wife used to hear everything her mother did to me, but eventually she caught on and we stopped talking about it. In addition to many other estimual desires, Mil has frequently expressed her explicit desire to hook up with me. Last week, in the middle of the night, I was awakened by loud noises coming from the living room. As an adult movie was playing on TV, I returned home to find my mother-in-law enjoying herself on the couch. I should have left right away, but I stayed to observe. Once our eyes converged, we remained in close proximity until she was done. I didn't mention it to my wife because I wasn't sure how to go about doing so. Since then, Mil has become much more assertive with her timely suggestions and advances, frequently rubbing her body against mine while making up excuses. My wife has asked me for another month after we discussed moving my in-laws. Yesterday, while I was working, Mil forcibly sat on my lap, shoved her tongue down my neck, and entered my home office while naked. I didn't fight Mil when she offered to help me with a difficult problem because I felt so aroused. She called me to join her as she entered my bedroom after that. I simply left the apartment because I was embarrassed by what had happened. After my wife left, I returned. Although I haven't told her, I'm at my wit's end. I don't like how my mother-in-law is approaching me, and I'm embarrassed by what happened. Redditor's reactions. Update after. Redditor 1. You knew she had seduced all of your wife's previous partners, but you maintained eye contact with her while she masturbated on your couch. Why? Why? And then, she jacked you off. I'm not sure if there's a way back from this. Redditor follow-up. I would have done that just to shame the other person, but clearly it doesn't work that way. Redditor 2. Are you sure this did not start with Dear Playboy? Redditor 3. 10 years age gap between you and your wife. On top of that, your wife is 24 and your Mile is 39, which implies your Mile had your wife when she was just 15-14. It all sounds like a teenager's fantasy. Redditor follow-up. I don't know. Lots of 14-15-year-olds get pregnant. Many of them have been groomed abused, and many end up hypersexualized as a way to cope with this, engaging in risky behaviors, substances, alcohol, selling your body, etc. It might be fake, but this behavior from someone who has clearly experienced serious childhood trauma also rings true. Update. My Mile is trying to seduce me. I told my wife everything that happened, everything I felt, and how I screwed up. She was shocked and shattered. She started sobbing, and when I tried to console her, she told me to leave her alone. She told me that she was disgusted just looking at me. I packed up some of my stuff and left. I will be staying in a hotel for a few days. Update 2. My Mile seduced me. My wife kept calling and texting me after I left yesterday. At first, I didn't respond, but later in a text, she threatened to kill herself if I didn't let her know where I was. I explained to her that I was in a hotel and needed some time to myself to process what had happened. I didn't let her in and told her to go home when she arrived at the hotel and knocked on my room. I had to let her inside the room to calm her down after she started a scene outside the room and insisted she wouldn't go home without me. Even the hotel security arrived, but they quickly left once they realized the situation. She continued to sob and cry while saying a few words, including, "I love you. Come back. Why her? Was I not enough? You are sick. How could you? You are sick. How could you? I appreciate you. You shouldn't be with her. I followed your requests exactly." To see her in that condition broke my heart. I succeeded in stopping her crying eventually. I explained to her my side of the situation and how helpless I felt at home without her. I said that even though her mother was a terrible person, I have always loved her. I explained to her that I trusted my wife to make the best choices for us, which is why I didn't take any action regarding her mother. She asked me why I felt betrayed, and I replied that my wife had never truly understood. Then she turned the tables on me and claimed that I had stopped asking her about her day and had only been complaining about her mother. She claimed that if I didn't like it, I could have evicted her mother. She mentioned that I used to bring her breakfast in bed but hadn't in the past 12 months. I sobbed uncontrollably after hearing it all. She insisted that if I went back home, she would fix everything. She asserted that she expelled her mother. When I pleaded for more time, she broke down in tears once more. I remained adamant that she leave or I would find another hotel. When she finally left, I had to force myself to restrain myself from pursuing her because I didn't want her to leave in the condition she was in. To make sure she got home safely, I kept checking the door security at my house. My heart sank seeing her mother with her when she did. She keeps texting me every hour to see if I'm prepared to return. She keeps telling us that she can fix everything. She has a delusional belief that we can resume our previous relationship, and I am aware of this. I'm not sure if I want to spend more time with her. Any possessions she chooses to take with her can go to live with her mother. Story 3. I left my ex-wife for another woman 6 years ago, and I don't feel even a little bad about it now. I drank myself to death 6 years ago while in an unhappy marriage. I was in a bad mental place when I met my ex-wife. I was completely open about my mental state and my intentions. I had just ended a long-term relationship, had just left the military, and was a heavy drinker. However, words are often overshadowed by deeds. No matter how many times I insisted that I didn't want a relationship because I was unable to engage in any healthy activity, I was too frail to stand up and leave. I didn't want to be by myself. I was coerced into proposing. I didn't really do it. I just agreed to pick out a ring with her since she paid for it, and I used the fact that I was buying my house as an excuse not to do it myself because all of her friends were getting married. She assured me that we could have a long engagement, meaning that we weren't required to get married right away. This lasted for about a year before arguments over the wedding planning began. Later, we had a 250-person wedding that was enormous and expensive. I found out that the one that got away was divorcing less than a year later. I also mentioned to my ex-wife that I wanted a divorce. I gave her free rein to remove any furniture or electronics she desired from my home, and I paid off the remaining balance on her credit card to the tune of $70s. My attorney served her with the divorce documents repeatedly until she agreed to sign them without seeking the judge's approval twice. She did not incur any additional debt because she did not hire a lawyer. I even hired movers to move everything for her after finding her a cheap apartment in a desirable location. A friend was terminating their lease. I then went and set it up for her. She was furious with me and blasted me in front of everyone she knew. My current healthy relationship has lasted 6 years, and I've been married for 2 years. My last drink was 3 years ago. I've never been healthier or happier, and I even look forward to getting older. For quite some time after leaving my ex-wife, I harbored regrets. Some people still avoid me because they think I'm horrible. I no longer feel bad, because I wouldn't risk changing where I am. I have no regrets about anything I've done. That's all there is to it. When they learn that I'm a woman and not a man, everyone seems to suddenly calm down, which is kind of bizarre. It should read exactly as it does. Be more cordial with the men in your life. Story 4. I found out my ex is married now, and it's breaking my heart all over again. I have no idea why. Nothing would have changed if I had known sooner. I wouldn't have arrived at the wedding shouting, "I object, I object." But even so, I was her best friend for 10 years prior to our relationship beginning, and we were together for 6 years, 5 of which were spent as roommates. Our relationship was dead on its feet for a while, before we decided to call it quits. We didn't want to bury a long-standing friendship, which contributed in part to how difficult it was for both of us to end things. When the going got tough, she made a promise that we would be friends again because that poop hurts irreparably. However, when the going got tough, she was completely silent. I did not receive any resolution. Despite my attempts over the years to keep up some semblance of a friendship, which I eventually gave up, she didn't even have the decency to tell me she was getting married. I learned about it from a friend. It was certainly not a piece of cake. She had betrayed all of her previous boyfriends, and when she eventually betrayed my trust, I almost ducked a few different people. Ironically, she chose to come out to me as not lesbian but bisexual and interested in women. After we broke up, which is perplexing, she sobbed uncontrollably because she was afraid her parents, who are lesbians, would think she was trying to be like them. Despite how agonizing it was for me at the time, all I could do was hold her, console her, and assure her that everything would be okay. She continued to date the woman who is now her wife, so of course she wanted to avoid me. So perplexed, I say. I'm not sure if it would have ended regardless, if it was because I told her at the time that I didn't want to have children with her, if someone simply got inside her head she was a very compliant person, or if it is real. Yet we were actual. Ducking took place. But after the breakup, I was forbidden from speaking to anyone. "You don't deserve to be paranoid all the time," was the most I heard. "I apologize for what I did to you." Furthermore, she recently got married, and the permanence of the circumstance is making me uncomfortable. Woe is me. Oh, my. Evade me. Story 5. My girlfriend, 19 told me 19. This is more of just a place for me to jot down my thoughts than it is about me worrying about cheating. I've been dating my girlfriend for a few months, and we have a great relationship. We inevitably got to talking about S-time relationships, and I knew she had a history of dating a lot of guys while in school because she had that reputation, as well as 2 ex-boyfriends with whom she had a S-time relationship. We talked about our past relationships, and I mentioned that I had slept with 10 different girls before meeting her. She had sex with both of her ex-boyfriends and 1 other man, but she only revealed to me 20 of the men she had sex with, leaving out many more because she insisted that the list of 20 had to be recent within the past 2 years. I believe the uneasy feeling is brought on by the fact that I live in a small town and know so many of the people she has hooked up with. Knowing that several guys saw my girlfriend as a hot free hookup when I see her as my world makes me uncomfortable. She wasn't boasting about anything because we're just trying to get to know one another and communicate well. She continued by telling me that she had 2 toxic relationships with boyfriends in the previous 2 years, both of whom I know. She claimed, however, that during their 3-month relationship she had 3 affairs but only told him about 1. She claimed she cheated on her second boyfriend once and never told him. They had a 2-month narcissistic summer fling this past summer. About 2 months after her summer romance ended, we first began speaking. She claimed that the reason this relationship works is because of how I treat her and the way she felt during our first kiss. It's very unsettling for me because I assumed this past of hers occurred more than 2 years ago. But now that I know it happened less than 2 months before we started hooking up and 4 months before we started hooking up and 4 months before we started dating, I think she appreciates feeling like someone sees her for more than her past. I've expressed my disapproval of the fact that she spends time with her negative influence friends, but every time we have a conversation of this nature, it comes across as if I'm pleading with her not to cheat on me rather than expressing my unspoken trust in her. Even before she told me about the instances of cheating, I have been telling her that. But more than ever, it appears that I'm criticizing her for her past, rather than showing her that I care enough to express my feeling. She is the girl I love too much to end our relationship, so I won't. I guess I'm just looking for confirmation that it's all right for me to feel uncomfortable that the girl I truly love just threw herself around and cheated on multiple people numerous times. Despite the fact that this is her longest and my first relationship, and even though I don't really think it would happen to me, our relationship is too strong. Redditors, reactions, Redditor 1, judging the past and seeing a pattern are two different things. I mean, if she's cheated before, what guarantees she wouldn't cheat on you? Redditor follow-up. Seriously, she's cheated 4 times and only confessed to 1. The last time she cheated was 2 months ago. I would run for the hills. I don't believe in once a cheater, always a cheater, but I do believe in a cheater 2 months ago is still a cheater. There's absolutely no time for growth in 2 months, and she's already told up he will never be told if she cheats on him. Redditor 2. Just because she loves you doesn't mean she won't cheat on you. Been there, done that. It just increases the pain. Yes, you can feel uncomfortable. Redditor follow-up. Just because she cheated on pieces of poop that treated her bad doesn't mean she'll cheat on him. Redditor 3. You are 19 years old and your brain is starved of oxygen because your D is using it all up. She just basically told you she isn't really planning on cheating, but hey, whatever happens, right? Hopefully, your D doesn't turn green and fall off one day from all the herpes.